Now that Brian's through with his negotiating class on seed corn, maybe we'll turn our attention to the local ag bank lenders.
Well, you know, with bankers, let's put it this way. Usually when you go in to talk to the banker, you're fearful, right? I mean, you're nervous, you're just worried about how that's going to go.
What are you scared of? That he's going to say no? That's what you're scared of, right? You're talking to the guy that his job is to loan out as much money as he possibly can.
And that's the only way that he makes money is if he loans money out. So here's what bankers are looking for. They just want a good, safe investment. Just like anybody else, they want to give you money, but they need to know that that money is coming back. So we just wanted to talk a little bit about what you should say to the banker and maybe things you might want to avoid.
Well, as Brian mentioned, bankers can loan their money to a wide variety of people. We, of course, in the agricultural industry, want the bankers to feel comfortable loaning money to production ag people. So if you want to get money loaned towards you, you need to convince them that your farm is a safe bet. So having everything laid out ahead of time when you go in and showing that banker that you are prepared and do your financial paperwork correctly, that's a great way to start. Go in with a balance sheet already filled out. You know the questions they're going to ask you. Well, what do you have for assets? What do you have for debt and liabilities? Show those things right up front. Don't try to hide things, just lay it all out on the table. Here's where we are. Here's where we were last year. You can see we're moving ahead. We're going to move ahead again this year. Here's our game plan for this year, and lay it all out.
Yep, and basically explain why you need the money that you need. And here's another good tip. The more often you can pay off your loan in entirety, the better chance that that bank wants to loan you money. So if you're carrying money for 2, 3, 4 years, it's really operating money, that gets tough. So try to pay it off as quickly as you can, and then reborrow again. Now, another thing, when you end up talking to the banker, let's keep in mind that with these bankers, they're under a lot of pressure right now. Here is the reason why. Well, the couple reasons why. First of all, interest rates are really low. So if, let's say, they say to the community in general, we will give you 1% if you keep your money with us. Is that very appealing to a lot of people? Not really. So it's tough for them to get money in. Okay, if they don't get money in, how are they going to loan money out? All right, that's one of the challenges that they face. Here's the other challenge. Because there were so many people in a lot of these big cities that basically took a lot of these banks for money, it really wasn't small communities. It was some of these people, like in New York City, for example, a lot of these banks went down. Okay, so now FDIC is passing on that charge to every bank across the whole country. So a lot of these, even little banks, who knows, they might have to pay $1 million extra this year just to FDIC, just as an extra fee to cover all those losses that the government had bailing out all these banks. That's not, to me, it doesn't seem really fair, but that's just the way the whole thing works.
Okay, so you understand that the bank is under some pressure at the federal level, and now that's passed on down to the local level. So their only choice is to try and raise some rates on the borrowers from that local bank. If you're somebody that they say, you know what, I'm really confident I'll get my money back from Joe, but from Bill, I don't know, I'm not so sure I'm going to get it from Bill. I better charge him a higher rate. You don't want to be Bill. You don't want to be the guy with a little bit higher rate. So what you need to do is work with that banker to make sure you can keep your rates as low as possible. One of the great ways to do it, and we talk about it on Ag PhD quite a bit, is speaking in the language of the banker. So you communicate with him in a language that he can pass on down the chain. Maybe it gets to the loan board and they say, okay, well, here's the people we're going to take some risk on this year. Which ones are a greater risk? Which ones have justified a lower rate because we aren't taking much risk on them? Well, if you're the guy that says, you know what, I'm going to apply a pre-emerge herbicide. It's going to cost me $10. I'm going to get $30 back. I'm going to get 3 times my money back. You know, that's a great return on investment. That's something that the banker can understand. To just say, you know what, I wasn't happy with my weed control last year, I'm going to spend another $10 an acre this year on a pre-emerge herbicide. That scares the banker when you speak of things that way.
Okay, and let's keep in mind too, when you go into the banker, don't let the banker say, well, you only have enough money for this, or I think you should do this. Never, ever listen to the banker when it comes to business advice. That's just my personal opinion. The banker is there to loan you money.
He's a banker. He's not a farmer.
He doesn't know your business as well as you know your business. So you need to go in with a business plan. Don't go in and let the bankers decide your business plan. I guess that's one of the most important things that you always have to keep in mind. And one last thing, just always remember, if you can borrow your money for 1 or 2% cheaper across many years, that's a big deal. Even if it's just 1 year and 1% that you save on your interest rate, let's say you were borrowing $1 million, well, you know, there's an extra 10 grand in your pocket. and it's no extra work. So the only work that's required is you doing a good job speaking to your banker and laying out your financial plan so he's confident in that you're going to pay him back off at the end of this year or whenever your terms would be set to be.
And so obviously a big thing to getting that rate lower is if you're having a good year this year, put some of that money towards the balance sheet. Pay down some debt. Invest in your farm rather than invest in your personal life. I mean, I'd like to go to Hawaii, but maybe I don't need to spend 10 grand on a trip. Maybe I put that 10 grand towards paying off some land or paying off some equipment or something. That's going to make you look that much better in the banker's eyes next year. If that gets you a lower rate, maybe that trip to Hawaii will be free after a few years of savings.
Yep, and one thing you always need to invest your money in is good weed control, especially if you have our Weed of the Week. Can you identify this week's weed?